Today I'm going to talk about the Aphikomen or Aphikomen, different names people give it.
Dessert.
Dessert. The Aphikomen, dessert. So, let's describe first what people do today. The Aphikomen is the matzah that we break in half. One part is being kept away for Aphikomen. There are different traditions. In the Ashkenazi tradition, the Baal Rabbi, the one who does the seder, hides the Aphikomen, and the children have to steal it from him, and then they get a prize for giving it back. Many educators and many rabbis think this is not a good practice because we're teaching the kids to steal. Even as a joke, it's not good. You say whatever you want. I didn't say. Oh, okay.
You give him the permission and you give him $1 when you find out.
Okay. Some people say that it's okay. We know it's a game, but some people are not fond of that. A different tradition is among the Sephardic communities, at least among the Iraqis, is that the children, once we break the Aphikomen, we give the Aphikomen to the kid. They put it in a scarf and they wrap it around their body like a sash or a belt, and then they go out of the room. They come back with bags on their shoulders or pillows, and we ask them, where are you coming from? They say, from Egypt. Where are you going to Yerushalayim? What's in your bags? And they say, ma nishtana, the whole thing. But then they take the Aphikomen as it's wrapped in the scarf, and they hide it. Meaning we give it to them, go hide it, and we have to find it. Now, what do you do with the Aphikomen? At the end of the Seder, the last part of the Seder says, Tzafun, Barech, Halel, Nirza. Tzafun means hidden, so eat the Aphikomen. Barech, say the Beracha, Birkat HaMazon. Halel, say the Halel, Nirza. Then your prayers have been accepted. So the place of the Aphikomen is you eat the meal, you do the Haggadah, you eat the matzah, maror, then you have the meal. The last thing you eat before Birkat HaMazon is Aphikomen, then you say the Baracha, and you finish the Halel. What comes after the Aphikomen? Are you allowed to eat after the Aphikomen? No. Not allowed to eat after the Aphikomen. So what if you want to stay late and talk about the Haggadah, or just linger, singing, can you have some desserts, fruits, nuts, coffee, tea? You ask a lot of people, they tell you, no, you cannot do that. But how am I going to stay all night? So they say, okay, maybe you could extend the Haggadah and the meal before the Aphikomen. Just go on with that, and when you want to finish. Problem, you can't do that because some people say that you have to eat the Aphikomen before midnight. So I have seen ridiculous situations where people want to talk about the Haggadah and extend the Haggadah as much as possible. So they talk, and then at around 11:30 they say, wow, we have to be able to eat the Aphikomen before midnight. So they eat the matzah, they do the kiddush, they eat the meal within 10 minutes, and then Aphikomen, and that's it, everything is clear, so they really don't enjoy their seder. Now, why don't we eat why is the Aphikomen the last piece of food? So it's not clear from the original text, which I'll go to in a second. The Mishnah says, "En maftirin ahara Pesach Aphikomen." You don't conclude the Pesach with Aphikomen. So we are doing the opposite. We do conclude the Pesach with Aphikomen. You realize that the last thing we do is Aphikomen. Okay. So the Talmud discusses the Mishnah. Talmud tries to understand what is Aphikomen. You give me a word in Greek, and it's Greek to me. Literally, the people didn't understand when the Talmud discussed the word Aphikomen. They didn't understand it. I'll give you the two main explanations. One is Rav. Rav says, "Shelo ya'akru mehavura lehavura." You should not move from one house to another. That's called Aphikomen. So Rav says, after you finish, don't say "en maftirin," like from the word "le'aftir b'safa." Don't say, "Let us go to another house." Ushmuel amar kegon ur dila ili v'gozelaya le'abba. Shmuel says it means dessert. He was used to eat mushrooms and truffles after the meal, and Rav, his colleague used to eat grilled chicken. That was the dessert. Okay, so he says you can't eat. And maftirin hara pesach Aphikomen. So it seems like two completely separate arguments, separate reasons, or explanations. Sorry. So now when we talk about Rav and Shmuel, it's important to remember those names. Rav, Shmuel. They were colleagues. They were contemporaries. They lived in the 3rd century in Babylonia, which is today Iraq. And they argue on many issues, but they're colleagues. Now, in terms of the background, Shmuel was a local Babylonian, Iraqi, was born in Bavel. Rav was an immigrant. He came from Israel to Bavel. Because of that, Rav is more familiar with the practices and the table manners of Eretz Israel, because he's a native, and Shmuel is not. So when they talk about a word in Greek was spoken in Israel, and the word in Greek describes the table manners of what people do at the Seudah, then Rav has more credibility. In the same manner, we know that from a different rule that the Gemara gives, which is when they have many debates, like I said, right? So the Gemara says, "Halacha k'Rav be'isurei, halacha k'Shmuel be'mamuna," meaning, if the debate that they have is on monetary issues, we follow the halacha of Shmuel, which is a local Iraqi. Why? Because monetary issues have to do with the law of the country, and he knows the practices. He knows how you do contracts, all the regulations. But when it has to do with Isurei, with issues of what is kosher, what is not, etc., which has to do with the original law as it came from Eretz Israel, Rav has more credibility. So we see it's important where you came from. So modern scholarship, historians, looked into this issue of Aphikomen, and they say it's true. Rav is really correct on that. It seems that the word Aphikomen does mean desserts, but in a very special way. People used to do at the end of the meal, they used to go from one house to another and have desserts together. So this way, if you can't invite people for the whole meal, you say, you come to me for desserts. So people know at around 9 o'clock, let's say you finish your meal, now you go dessert hopping. You go to visit Mr. Levy at 9:15, Mr. Cohen at 9:30, Mr. What's his name? Jacob, right? At 9:45, and so on. So everybody gets to get it. So Rav says, on Pesach you don't do that, because on Pesach the emphasis is on the nuclear family. You hang out with your family. And then later on, tomorrow, the pilgrimage, you'll see everyone.
But what about Kol Ditzur Yetevivsa?
No, people are welcome to join you for the meal.
People who are coming are going.
But they don't belong. No, but they don't. Those people.
They're talking about people from the street.
Yes, people who have who homeless,
have no family.
No family, right? Okay. So now. That's an interesting thing to put, to have in mind, that they used to have this minhag. So if this is the case, what Rav says, El maftirin hara pesach, what the Mishnah says according to Rav, El maftirin, don't do Aphikomen, it means don't go and have desserts in another household. But if you want to stay home and have desserts, no problem. That's according to Rav. According to the other opinion, the rabbis try to understand, why wouldn't you have desserts? Why do you have to conclude your meal with the way they explain it with the last piece of matzah? So they said that originally the Pesach was the last thing you would eat, the korban, the sacrifice, the meat would be the last thing you eat. Now that we don't eat roast meat of Pesach on Saturday night, you have to finish your seudah with a piece of matzah. So this will be the flavor that lingers in your mouth. So you remember the matzah. And if you eat desserts, it will override this flavor. The problem with this explanation is that after we eat the matzah, we still say Birkat HaMazon and drink a cup of wine. And then we say the Hallel and drink another cup of wine. I think that as much matzah that you eat before, once you had 2 cups of heavy, whatever, not heavy, red wine, white wine, whatever, the flavor would go away. It's not going to stay there. So there's a problem with that. Another problem is that in practice, I know of many households where people do stay after the Birkat Hamazon and bring desserts. And so are they doing against the halacha? Are they doing something wrong? Especially since I saw it in the house of my grandfather, alav shalom. My grandfather, Haim Ovadia, we used to say in his house, Aphikomen, Birkat Hamazon, Hallel with the cups of wine, and then open table, desserts. My aunt was an expert on Pesach cakes, so we had.
We have some recipe.
I have to call her.
We
we have a problem. Right, but mostly it was either coconut or almond drops, but you had also dried fruits, fresh fruits, coffee, tea. We would sing, we have piyutim, we would learn together. It was beautiful. So then, some people challenged that. No, you cannot do that. So I have to find out what is the basis for this practice. If everybody says that you cannot eat after the Aphikomen, especially since my grandfather followed the tradition of his father, Haim Ovadia, and he followed the traditions of his great-grandfather, Rabbi Reuven David Nawi, all the way to the 17th century. So it's a long-standing tradition. It's not like something that comes out of thin air. So I looked for the sources of that, and I found that they say this. Rashbam was the grandson of Rashi, one of the commentators on the Mishnah, says, and also Rabbi Ovadia of Bertinoro was an Italian commentator on the Mishnah in the 16th century, say, לא כפיד, אלא לאכול בשני מקומות, אבל לאכול דברים אחרים במקום הראשון, שערי רב, ובלבד שלא יעקור לאוכלם עם חבורה אחרת. This is the only problem is if you eat it in 2 separate places. If you go from one place to another place to have dessert. But if you eat in the same place, there's no problem. And Rabbi Ovadia ben Bertinoro says the same, לאכול דברים אחרים במקומו הראשון שערי. Okay, now even according to the other opinion which says it's about the flavor, and that you have to keep the flavor in your mouth. There are 2 exceptions. One, כדי שישאר טעם פסח בפיו, זה רק עד חצות. אבל לאחר חצות זה לא בזמן המצווה, מותר לאכול. So the Pesach, we say, אינו נאכל אלא עד חצות. When is the time of eating Pesach? Until midnight. So after midnight, the mitzvah of Pesach, the mitzvah of the flavor of the Pesach is gone. Now you could do whatever you want. This is one exception. The other exception is brought by Rabbi Zrahia Levi of Gerona in Spain, and he explains the reason that they said don't eat Aphikomen, because for that they would move to another place to do the desserts and they will forget to say Hallel. The rabbis didn't want them to forget to say the Hallel, because all this commotion, like people sometimes, when there's commotion, they go and forget Birkat Hamazon. So Rabbi Zilberstein, in his book Hishukei Hamed, he writes about that. He says, לפי טעם זה אין איסור באכילת אפיקומן אחר הפסח, רק לפני הלל. אבל לאחר הלל, מותר לאכול מה שירצה. So he says, the only problem of not eating anything after Aphikomen is before you say the Hallel. That will make sense. Tzafun barech, Hallel nirtza. It's part of the Agadah. Eat the Pesach, eat the Aphikomen, meaning not the Pesach, today is the meal. Eat the meal, eat the Aphikomen, say Birkat Hamazon, say Hallel, drink a cup of wine, you're done. Now you want to eat, you have dessert, tfaddal, you could do whatever you want. And that is the halacha, it's a valid practice. If you want, you two that are very strict, and this year you want to stay after the, yeah, you are. You're good, it's good. I'm not saying it the bad way. If you want to stay after the Haggadah, after Birkat Hamazon, and bring coffee and tea and kosher cookies that Rami will provide, Be'ezrat Hashem, then you're allowed to do that. So no problem with that. To each his own. Those who want not to do it, fine, but they're losing the joy and happiness of Pesach. It's totally valid and allowed practice. With that, you could really enjoy the Pesach to the maximum. Now, questions.